I'm Beau Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Captain Nostalgia.
And this is Collateral Cinema and...
Victims and Villains.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Festivus, Happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and whatever you celebrate. This is Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters, where we focus on good movies, bad movies, and everything else in between in the world of cinema. We're podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and we are a 420 friendly podcast. So whatever you have, you better smoke it, because we're surviving something really, really uniquely bad here for the holiday season. Isn't that right, y'all?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, as is our annual tradition now, Mr. Captain Nostalgia is with us from Victims and Villains. And you're here to survive this venture with us, aren't you?
God, I deep dove into this took me on quite a rabbit trail. Yes, I am here to survive this with you guys.
Yes, and the movie we are speaking about is Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, a movie I have been just really, really wanting to get to ever since we started this podcast. Very much like how I really wanted to get to The Room, so we just did it in the first season.
Yeah,
and everything.
Yeah.
But this right here is arguably the Room of Christmas movies. Like, absolutely. No, I believe that this is just so undeniably bad in so many ways, but it's in a very special kind of way, you know? And the fact that it's a holiday movie is just icing on the cake, so to speak.
So I'm just going to throw this out there super early that I have come prepared with hilarious reviews that I will sprinkle into the conversation throughout. And the first one comes via Rotten Tomatoes from Christy Lemire. By the way, this holds a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Christy says, "It is the Room of Christmas movies. Actually, The Room is more enjoyable, but you get the idea."
Oh, wow.
This movie in a nutshell, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, this movie, for one, it's not really a movie in the traditional sense, is it not? I mean,
it's mostly padding.
It's mostly padding and Kirk Cameron bullshitting his way through whatever these arguments are. I don't even know. We'll get into these here in a little bit, but I'm just like, what exactly is he going for here? I mean, this is so unlike any other so-called War on Christmas movies.
It is uniquely bad, I might add. I don't think anybody unironically enjoys this movie except for a very small target demographic that this movie was written for. They're an echo chamber. We encounter some of them in our local community chat.
Oh, yes, quite a few of them.
I know quite a few people that I think would actually enjoy this unironically. And apparently Kirk Cameron has like millions of fans on social media, so somebody enjoys this. There's a very specific demographic.
Yeah, specifically just Kirk Cameron supporters. I mean, it's such a small, marginal group online and everything that, I mean, it's kind of surprising that this movie was even made, because
it's such a marginal amount of Christians even. It's just this tiny, very angry, very loud portion of I don't know, fundamentalist, extreme right-wing. Like, it's where you see that, like, overzealous evangelical angle, right?
Exactly.
So as the only Christian on this podcast, I am a practicing Christian on this podcast. I hate talking about these types of movies with other Christians because I'm always kind of like deemed like in the wrong by the majority of people because I don't know. I think there's like this unspoken rule in the church that like if it like does stuff like this, it's supposed to like be good. And the thing about it being a Christian and being a cinephile is that all of Christian movies they're bad. They're bad acting, they're bad writing, they're bad editing, they're bad cinematography. Like I've never walked out of a Christian movie and been like, wow. Now, before any Christians come at me, I've not seen any of The Chosen. I've seen like clips of it. The cinematography is probably the one exception I would make to that rule. I've heard it's like a really like quality show made to where like each episode is like $1 million. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like this is like looking up on like Rotten Tomatoes and like the fact that this holds a 0% from the critics, but also a 30% from Rotten Tomatoes. Like Ash, that emphasizes your point about this being made for like a very marginal group of people to where I'm like 30% like even feels like too high.
Yeah, there's actually an explanation for that.
Yeah.
Why it's even 30%, because Kirk
Please
Cameron...
lay it on me.
Kirk Cameron astroturfed this.
So yeah, Kirk Cameron insisted that this movie was review bombed by atheists and non-believers, and so asked his followers to review bomb the movie, but the opposite way.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, it's such a
why?
juvenile response, right? I mean, what the fuck?
So yeah, that's why there's a 30%, because that group I don't think even accounts for 30% of Christians, and certainly not 30% of people that have watched this movie,
Or just the movie going populace in general. I mean,
right, exactly. Yeah, there is no way. That is where that number comes from. And man, if this movie isn't just a bunch of ham-fisted hogwash, I mean, it is the most like. It is some of the worst examples of taking scripture and just interpreting whatever you want out of it.
Are you sure that this even scripture that he's talking about?
I don't know. It's been a while.
He's coming.
Look. Let me. If we guys we're gonna get into this now. Let me just say that some of the scripture that like, cause I watched this movie and then like I would text like other Christian friends I had and I'm like, hey, I'm watching this movie. Like, I want to get your thoughts on this. And I felt like some of the connections that they like are making in this movie connected to the Bible are like stretching, so aggressive. And this movie, I walked out of this movie like you guys probably like were like, oh yeah, like this movie was dumb, it was funny. I walked out of this movie like just angry.
No, I was angry as well, actually.
Yeah.
Beau and I were yelling at the screen the entire time.
Yeah, we were yelling just like, really, Kirk? Really?
There is no hot chocolate in that mug, Kirk.
I think, and I am also like, I'm gonna turn my before we jump into like the quality of this movie about like, I mean, we're already talking about it, but can you guys see me right now?
Pull up Zoom.
I need to know like what is the deal with this subplot right here. Don't look at me.
Oh yes, the conspiracy theorists like talking about the war on Christmas with the cup up over their faces.
Yeah, and so much so that they made it the post-credit scene.
Exactly.
What's weird is that they're made out to be conspiracy theorists. Like they're actually. It's like a self-own. He makes a point. What does he say? Like, I believe it just because it was on Fox News.
Yeah, that's like self-own of the century right there. I'm just like, why? Like, what are you doing, Kirk? Are you fucking with us here?
Yes. What is the takeaway? Because, I watched that and I'm like, yeah, I agree. That's a bunch of bullshit. And then he spouts it later.
Exactly.
And so it's like, what are you supposed to think that they're just the charming, more eccentric Christians?
And there's such a disconnect there between, like what Kirk Cameron is actually arguing here versus what they're bringing up, which kind of really makes it absolutely feel like it's veering into parody. And I'm just like, Kirk, what are you really doing here? What is your angle doing this scene?
Yeah.
So here's time for another Rotten Tomatoes quote. This comes from Peter Sabosky over at RogerEbert.com, and I couldn't agree more with this. Oh. He says, quote, "Perhaps the only Christmas movie I can think of, especially of the religious themed variety, that seems to flat out and endorse materialism, greed, and outright gluttony." The very fact that this movie essentially tries to like manipulate like the holy word of God, the very thing that is supposed to celebrate this season, and like twist it to like give excuses for why we hang Christmas trees and why we hang lights on Christmas trees, why Santa Claus is involved, and all these other things. Like it just, I couldn't agree more. Like this thing just kind of seems to really like embrace materialism, because like there's another movie that was made a few years after this movie, and it essentially like is made from like other Christians, but it's told from the perspective of Wiccans and practicing witches and atheists and historians and like other Christians, and they're asking like this big question is like, well, if Christmas is really about Jesus, then how come he seems like such an afterthought for the majority of us, and we're the ones that get the gifts versus him, if it's really his birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. This movie is just, I think you said it best. It's stretching. And then, yeah, just the blatant support of just gross materialism is disgusting. That bit at the end where it's like, hang your fanciest, or get out your fanciest china, and like, really, Kirk? That's your takeaway?
Seriously?
You even raised the point earlier of what we could be doing. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm about to talk about right there. There's that scene with Darren Doan in the car, which is the majority of the movie, and Kirk Cameron finds him, and then he laments about all the with all of this materialism and all this consumerism and spending all this money and everything, we could have dug wells, we could have fed children and whatnot, but then just right out of the gate, after all of that, after this sentiment that's actually a really, really good point, Kirk Cameron is just like, "You're wrong." And then
you're all wrong.
You're all wrong. It's like, oh no, Kirk. It's like, wait, that's isn't that exactly what Christmas is supposed to be about?
I mean, they never address that. They try to spin how like some of the pagan origins are. Well, actually, if you think about it this way, that is just fictional. You're making a fictional connection. Then you can see it as it's actually Christian, and it's like, what? But they go out of their way to try to explain that, which whatever. But you're not even going to address the legitimate concerns. Like, yeah, you could be helping people, right?
Exactly. And that's never once brought up after that. It's just,
and then they double down and say, consume more. And like, what? How? I even as a Christian, I think I would be angry at this movie, like you were, like I can see why that would inflame me, because it inflamed me already as an atheist.
Yeah, it's weird because it's a confrontational movie about something that just doesn't need confronting in the end, And it's coming at it with this wrong-headed, misinformed perspective that I mean, I just it's a unique flavor of wackery. I mean, it's I don't know what to really say to most of it.
And then it ends with a dance number, and that's
Oh yeah, just a slap in the face. Not just a slap; it's a dick slap to the face. That's Kirk Cameron slapping us with his dick.
that is Kirk Cameron slapping us with his dick.
It's exactly what that is.
80 minutes of dick slapping. Oh man.
Exactly.
Like that's one of the things that, like, if I'm like being honest, I it's really hard for me sometimes to, like, I don't want to say necessarily identify as a Christian, but to like kind of get pigeonholed with like this image that people think, because it seems like around Christmas time it's like we use the excuse, there's like, to bring it back to our conversation on Violent Night, there's Christmas magic. Like, something happens in the world where people are nicer, they're more patient, and you can kind of use the excuse, well, it's Christmas, man, like, have a heart, and kind of thing. And like, I feel like the church also adopts that mentality. And like, I'm looking right now at there's a section of scripture in Matthew 25 where Jesus is telling this parable, and he specifically talks about, when I was hungry and you gave me something to eat, I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink, I was a stranger and you invited me in, and if I needed clothes, you clothed me, I was sick and you looked after me, I was in prison and you came and visited me. Then the righteous will answer, Lord, when did you see hungry and feed you, or be thirsty or give you something to drink? And then he goes back on a few verses later after they've recounted that, verse 40, and says, the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you do for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And like, I think that's one of the hardest things that, like, we as Christians, like, grapple with, is that, like, we think that, like, because church numbers are increasing on Christmas and on Easter, those are the times that we're supposed to kind of take this example. And no, like, this is supposed to be like a lifestyle. Like, there's supposed to be like actual proof and like evidence that something in your life has changed, has manifested, and that the Lord is actually doing a work in your life, and it outpours into the lives of the less needy. A lot of the things that he talks about with, like, digging wells and like helping third world countries and feeding the homeless, like, those are things that, like, those are issues that don't just exist at Christmas time. Those are issues that exist and should be treated year round.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the side of Christianity that I can actually jive with. And it's just too bad that we don't get to see that in the world of cinema ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kirk Cameron is just that particular flavor of fundamentalist. I mean, they're not basing anything really on scripture. It's all really just their own opinion and interpretation of, just snippets of it.
Yeah.
And that's blatantly obvious here, like, especially with the fact that, Darren Donuts, by the way, the dude's name is Christian White.
And he wants you to know that he fucks Kirk Cameron's wife.
Absolutely. Oh, man, he's slaying that big dick energy with Kirk Cameron's sister, like, all the way.
Sorry, his sister, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. He wants you to know. No, he does both, actually, because Kirk Cameron is 100% a cuckold. So he fucks Kirk Cameron's sister and he fucks his wife.
Wow. That's amazing.
That he's got all the BDE.
Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, I mean, he just brings up all these great points, and then it's just all slapped away, and no solution is given for any of that. Why, like, what should we do? What does scripture say? It's all just, Kirk Cameron bloviating about his particular ideology regarding Christmas.
Is it even his? Because I don't think he wrote. I know he didn't direct it, and I don't think he wrote this movie either.
No, he co-wrote this, I think,
or co-produced it or something. But I know he's involved. But what? Let me look. Let's look it up real quick.
Yeah, look that up, because
I got Rotten Tomatoes here. All right, so this movie is written by Cheston Harvey and Darren Doan. So this movie
Okay.
does not he's not even a producer on this movie. He is straight up just a star.
Wow.
What the fuck? I mean, okay, so hold on. It's like, why is it Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas then?
Yeah, he neither wrote nor directed this film.
Kirk, this movie is full of lies and bullshit,
That is all that it is.
and a dance number with a song that's admittedly maybe kind of sort of.
You
a
couldn't
banger.
even put hot chocolate in the fucking mug.
Well,
it is nothing but lies.
So I think for the majority of it, the reason why it's Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas is because I think it's a marketing ploy, honestly.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. He is an executive producer on the movie. But yeah, like it would, back in the day, like remember like when it was like cool for like horror movies to have like John Carpenter presents, Wes Craven presents.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of the same thing as like that, you're more like from a marketing standpoint, you're more likely to see a movie called Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas over just Saving Christmas because, well, you recognize the name Kirk Cameron. By this point, he's made, the Left Behind trilogy. He's done Fireproof. He has the nostalgia factor of Growing Pains. So, he's really made a name for himself. So that would be the reason why.
Okay, it's like sort of his brand, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
But still, okay, I still blame him for this because he said those words. He read that script and he funded or helped fund and made some executive decisions regarding this movie.
Yes, no, we lay the blame squarely at his feet, 100%.
like I'm already thinking like we're not gonna title this episode Darren Doan's Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. No, this is Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. All the blame is on you, Kirk. You were the poster boy.
So here's the problem with movies like Saving Christmas, especially when you're telling something from a religious perspective, and this doesn't just go for this movie, but this would go for like docuseries or documentaries, especially where you're unloading a bunch of information and you are telling it from your perspective as the filmmaker. So the audience is only experiencing one side. And so if like listeners, you actually like are interested about like wanting to understand the actual like historical roots of Christmas, of the holiday, of the traditions, of like the lore that has kind of been built upon it with Santa Claus and elves and stuff like that, and kind of like the part that the church actually plays in it, I would recommend the documentary The Christmas Question. It's the documentary I referenced earlier because it has such a balanced view of it to where it's telling stories from history. It's telling stories from like actual historians, theologians. You're just sitting down and talking with people that are actually actively questioning whether or not they should be celebrating Christmas as Christians, people that have decided to keep celebrating, people that have walked away, people that are practicing paganism, witchcraft, Wiccan. Like, I mean, it's a really well done documentary, and the way that it kind of balances the information out, it allows you as the viewer to make the choice for yourself on how you feel about Christmas with the information. And I think that's kind of the biggest crux that I hate about this movie is that like it's told from like a one-sided like point of view for Christianity. And as a Christian, I don't identify it. I don't agree with every point. I don't agree with almost any point that's made in this. We talked about this in our Violent Night episode, but like Christmas to me now as an adult and as a practicing Christian it's about family. Like I could honestly, I don't care what people get me. I truthfully don't. So like I'm looking for anything.
Yeah.
But it's no longer about the gifts and kind of stuff. It's like I want to see family and want to laugh and I want to create memories.
Family.
family. Exactly. I mean, I feel that 100%. I'm copacetic with that. But I mean, the thing about this movie right here is that he's trying to basically redefine Christmas as a cultural institution first. You have to remember, this is still a culture war movie, 100%. So that's really what it is. It's about establishing a narrative. And his narrative is like, let's go over some of the arguments here. Like the whole narrative about the swaddling cloth being also the burial cloth, and now that bookends Jesus's life, and somehow that's significant or something. I don't even know what he was going for there.
Or the Christmas trees are crosses because crosses are made out of wood.
Something like that. Or, but hey, checkmate atheists. God created the winter solstice. Checkmate atheists.
So this is the thing that going the point in I had to walk away from this movie several times because I got so heated. And the Christmas tree argument was like one of my biggest walkaways moments, because I was like, that is stretching. So in Romans chapter 5, Paul lays out this in his letter. He basically discusses how God created Adam, and with Adam brought forth, as first man, brought forth the ushering of sin. And Jesus coming and taking on the cross put a that was the finality of sin. And sin still existed, but it was like this, God nailed it into the cross, to where man could be free essentially and be pure blameless in the eyes of God, as Ephesians tells us. And it's this parallel of how Christ kind of undid all of the wrong that Adam had presented. And that argument felt like such a Paul wrote this in Romans, let's run with this kind of the mentality. And I was just dude, it infuriated me for real.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see why. I mean,
yeah. No, this movie is infuriating, but then at other times it's just what is going on? I can't help but laugh for different reasons than Kirk Cameron ever intended.
Yeah, definitely.
Weird how there's that dichotomy with this movie. You're either angrily yelling at it, or you're laughing at the sheer absurdity of it.
I know. I mean, especially when it comes to his whole thing with Santa Claus. Now that is where the movie really goes off the rails for me, because I mean,
this guy, as they're presenting them, is assaulting other people because they don't believe exactly the same thing he believes. Is that an example that we're looking up to? Physical violence?
The stupid thing is they're referencing St. Nicholas of Myra. It's there's not even any real clear evidence that he was even at the Council of Nicaea, which is where this took place. That was where the Nicene Creed was established, establishing, the divinity of Christ and, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit and whatnot. That was all pretty much set in stone there. But I mean, and Arius wouldn't have even been able to speak there because he wasn't a bishop. So it's already fundamentally wrong, historically speaking, just from the get-go. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of talk about the origins of Santa Claus historically. I mean, it's pretty complicated. It's more like a combination of Germanic and Dutch pagan traditions and German Lutheranism.
Man,
that's
where I like the violent
Christmas
or the violent night version better.
Yeah, the Violent Night version is awesome. That he has some Nordic origins. Apparently, there's some pushback against the whole Santa Claus is derived from Odin thing. Mainly because Odin's sleigh never flies or something like that. So there's some debate about that.
I think maybe like mythology's probably gotten mixed up a little bit, and
A lot of it.
and real historical events to some extent.
Yes, that's really what it is. But it's like when he's talking about this, it's like, well, you realize that there's like numerous different figures like this throughout the world that aren't necessarily tied to these traditions. Like I mean, I think even Father Christmas in the UK is a completely different character from what we consider Santa Claus.
Do you ever feel like Christmas has been hijacked?
Hey, where's Christian? How's he doing? Is he okay?
Oh, he's fine, really. He's just not into Christmas this year, that's all.
By all the commercialism and those who want to replace Merry Christmas with Happy Holidays or Season's Greetings, whatever that means.
You okay?
This is not what Christmas is all about.
Some want to pull down every manger scene and tell us why our favorite Christmas traditions are wrong.
Newsflash, not in the Bible. That's a pagan idol symbol. It was the winter solstice. Jesus was not born in December. It's exactly what the Druids did. It's like a carjacking, but like of our religion. And guess what? Santa got in the car, kicked Jesus out, and was like, rolling, 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 and just took it.
Isn't it time somebody spoke up?
Everything you see inside there, it's all about Christmas. It's all about Jesus.
I know you love Christmas and you want it to be all about what it's all about. This Christmas, dive headfirst into all of the joy, the dancing, the celebration, the feasting, the imagination and traditions that glorify the true reason for the season.
Ooh, work, Holy Spirit. Ha! Can I get an amen? I see them scales are falling off. Glory. Glory.
Join me and my family, and together, let's put Christ back into Christmas.
It's also crazy too. One of the things that I learned in the process of like actually doing research on some of these traditions is how closely tied like the concept of Santa Claus and Krampus actually are.
Oh yes, Krampus is like the best part of all of that, I think.
Yeah, it's wild to me because like I had never heard the legend of Krampus until I was well into adulthood.
Yeah, same
and
here.
And I think that's largely because like we as a Western culture, like we try to like sugarcoat, especially within the church, about like what Santa Claus, who Santa Claus is. I you guys talk about Violent Night. An underappreciated classic, I feel like, in my opinion, is Fred Claus. I thought Paul Giamatti was a great Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And just like some of his like origin stories, yeah, it's wild.
Nice.
But yeah, like in like the actual like beginnings of Santa Claus, like Santa Claus and Krampus were essentially like God and the devil. Like if you were good, you got a visit from Santa Claus. If you were bad, you got a visit from Krampus. Like it was as simple as that. And over the years, like we've kind of like separated those two. And it's mostly my understanding is that like Krampus is mostly like a legend from like Eastern mythology. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Eastern? I always thought Krampus was a more Germanic.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it's east of us here, and
east of us,
east of us here.
Eastern. Yeah. It's definitely Germanic in origin, but like I said, it's also a little bit of Dutch folklore and also a healthy dose of German Lutheranism. And in fact, a lot of the traditions of the Christian side of Christmas, and a lot of that we usually associate with Christmas, that comes from Lutheranism, mostly.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's some there's a little bit of debate as to, where, those folkloric traditions kind of converted into religious traditions, in a modern sense. But, there's several instances, like, for instance, Saturnalia with the Romans and everything. And
I was in Latin in high school, and we always did Saturnalia. That was a thing.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
that's
pretty
cool,
actually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is this whole holiday has a much more complicated history than people really give it,
Christmas has...
It's very complicated.
Yeah, it's like a marriage of Lutheranism and paganism and...
all kinds of other stuff, and even like newer traditions,
Yeah. I think that's actually what's kind of really cool about it, is it's a marriage of these cultural ideas, so it appeals to a lot of people's mental health and a lot of different demographics.
Yes, exactly.
Kirk Cameron's idea of Christmas does not.
No, that's a maddening take on Christmas.
Yeah, you bring up mental health, man. If you guys want healthy mental health, don't watch this movie, please. There's a reason that it's free on like 5 or 6 streaming networks.
Yeah, we watched this on Tubi, actually.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I'm not the part of the reason that like as I've gotten older, like I wouldn't necessarily say that like I've stopped celebrating Christmas, but Christmas has definitely changed its roots for like it's changed what it means in my life, and I think it's because of that uncertainty of not knowing really where it came from. Yeah. Because I've been in the church since I was old enough to talk. And, I've definitely had my ups and downs with churches. I've definitely like walked away and like, wanted nothing to do with the church. I've invested, my extra time in doing ministry. Like I've definitely had ups and downs with the church. I've had my share of church hurts, bitterness, etc. And like, I say all that to say that like church emphasizes, especially Christianity emphasizes that like you have to celebrate Christmas because it's the birth of Christ, and that's not historically like true,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, historically, like if you look from the text, wouldn't it have been like in the spring or something?
Yeah, the shepherds wouldn't have even been out and about if it was winter.
So a lot of people, some of the arguments that I've come across with like theologians is like some people say that it would have been like July. Other people think that the conception day would have been March 25th. But it's originally it would have been March 25th. And so like 9 months from March is December. So that's the reason why we have this guesstimation of when Christmas is. Okay. However, Christmas as we now know it today actually was not on the I'm pretty sure I remember this right. But Christmas as we know it today was not actually on December 25th. It was actually on either December 22nd or 23rd. And I forget who instituted that originally, but I think it's around like right around like it's somewhere between 600 and like 1200 BC or AD. Sorry, they essentially like established that Christmas was going to be this day, and then certain events kind of over time have pushed it together. And so like the concept of actually celebrating Christmas on December 25th wasn't even around until like 13 or 1400 AD. And I could be completely wrong on that, but I do know that like time has shifted, and like it's not this like revolutionary idea that we've always celebrated Christmas on December 25th. It's actually history shows it being quite different if you actually look into it.
Yeah, and that's what makes Kirk Cameron's arguments about the historical precedent behind Christmas so infuriating, because, I mean, it is ahistorical for one, but it just does not take into account that, traditions and stuff like this, it evolves over time, I mean, even from Christian traditions, and that's just something that he doesn't take into account. Like, not even in the slightest sense. And that's why it's just so easy to poke holes through all of this.
Yeah, it's 100% easy to poke holes. Everything he says, and by the way, most of the movie is two guys sitting in a car and then padding. There is a lot of stalling.
Lots of stalling.
Yo, can you guys please, I don't know if you guys look this up, but I am so curious to know what the budget of this movie was, because you're right. The entirety of this movie is two guys talking for the 80% of this movie. The majority of this budget of what I would imagine went into some of the sets and the costume designs of the flashback is Cameron's talking. But this movie has to have I would imagine the majority of this movie cost $200. I like to imagine that when Kirk Cameron sent this to the distributor originally, it was just him and Darren talking in the car. They're like, no, you got to change this.
I have it up here on Google. It says its budget was $500,000 US. It made $2.8 million on a $500,000 budget.
Jesus.
They made money off of it. They made their money back and more on this.
Jesus fucking Christ. Come on. Really? This movie did?
It's essentially just Kirk Cameron having a goddamn Christmas house party. That's the entire reason that they made this, was so he can have a fully funded Christmas party.
With how many families?
Several families. And Uncle Bill or whatever.
And Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill, who probably shouldn't be around children.
Yeah.
Look, from someone that just went through the House Party franchise earlier this week for the first time, this is essentially House Party 6. They just ran out of ideas. They're like, you know what? We haven't done a Christmas party.
Yeah.
I think it's time. And then somewhere along the lines, in development, Kirk Cameron was like, I have a better idea. What if we brought the House Party crowd, but we spun it with preaching?
Wow, that's mind-blowing, bro.
We're like Darren Doan, and you're like Kirk Cameron, and our minds are blown.
Yeah, Darren Doan, he who has no credulity whatsoever.
Seriously, he immediately accepts all of these ideas, these weird contrived analogies.
He's just like, wow, I'd never seen the whole thing with the swaddling cloth.
Of course you haven't.
It's not an argument. It's not a point. It's a pointless observation.
All right. Also too, I'm at this point now where in my faith is the reason that I believe my faith is as strong as it is because I'm now in this church environment and community that we're not just taking people at their words, but we're actually saying hey, test this. Actually go forth and do research on everything that we say, do word studies, look at the history, look at the context of what's going on, not only in the scriptures, but cross-reference it. And then also at the same time, look at its history. And this guy is just like you guys said, it's just everything that Kirk Cameron's laying out. He's just you know what? You're right. Never thought about it like this. And it's dude, no, it's not how you're supposed to do it. You're just kind of carrying on the idea of church, which in and of itself, I understand that it has its ups and it has its downs and it has its place. But it also at the same time should teach people to how to make their faith their own and make their own understandings and judgment calls on literally everything that you are teaching them.
Well, the thing is that in many ways, this is also a kind of a prosperity gospel kind of ideology in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially with the whole angle about materialism and consumption and whatnot. It's like, I mean, that just seems to be the message that he's going for, right? Like
At first, right?
Yeah.
And then he just immediately dismisses that. They never address it again, and then doubles down on the opposite.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like spinning that whole yarn, like near the end where Darren Doan is on the floor looking at the presents, and he's like, yeah, that looks like the skyline of a city. It's like of the new city, the new Jerusalem. And it's like, oh, now we're getting into eschatology, Kirk, really? Are we going there now? It's like,
Yeah.
Oh, there's no doubt about this. This is the prosperity gospel. And the ironic thing about this movie is that given the fact that it is going after the prosperity gospel, this is like 5-6 years, like way too late, because the prosperity gospel, like the concept of celebrity preachers, really had its heyday back in like 2009, 2010, with, like Mark Driscoll, Joel Osteen, like names like that. And like the fact that this came out in 2014, it's like, do you remember the prosperity gospel? Get ready for 80 full minutes.
yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the original televangelists from the late 80s, early 90s, like Robert Tilton and Benny Hinn and who else? Like the early Cornerstone Church and Hagee and all them.
Oh,
it's like
Hagee.
that. You can make that direct line to the prosperity gospel from that particular type of preacher,
Yeah, Tim and Tammy Faye and
Baker,
her husband Baker and her
Jim Baker.
husband Jim Baker.
Oh yeah, I remember them very, very well.
Oh no, like my mom actually knows one of Hagee's family members, and I've got some dirt on Hagee.
My family had some involvement in one of Hagee's early churches as well, and they know some things as well. So they probably know the same shit that your family knows.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like, we probably won't air it on the podcast, but yeah.
I do remember one time back in the day when we were going to church all the time. We went to church with my grandmother's family, and we went to a local barbecue joint, and the Hagees and their entourage came in, and we bailed. We got the fuck out of there. Like, that's how bad the blood was there.
Yeah.
So that's just all I'm going to really say about that. But yeah, you can make that direct line from that particular flavor of pastor, because I mean they got really, really rich off of their ministries back in the day as well. I mean, for Christ's sake, look at what the Bakers were doing. Yeah. They had an amusement park, if I remember.
They attempted to build an amusement park.
Yeah, it stands abandoned now.
They did do an amusement park, and it is abandoned now. You're right. A lot of people got swindled out of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, God damn it. So there's a Ponzi scheme on top of it. Jesus. Sounds about right, though. I mean, and yeah, when you get to the prosperity gospel, I mean, that's when it just almost became like too big to fail banks in a way. Mm-hmm. Like that's how big their operations have become. And of course, Osteen didn't even open his church to hurricane victims.
Mm-hmm.
Bastard. But yeah, and then you have this movie, which I don't know. In many ways, when it comes to War on Christmas movies, it's kind of benign in some ways. It's infuriating, but like we said, they kind of make fun of that particular flavor of War on Christmas conspiracy theorism in the movie. It's just, I don't know if it's on purpose, but they do go there. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, that's what I think anyways.
Well, I mean, there's probably not a whole lot more to say about Saving Christmas. Any final thoughts, Captain Nostalgia?
You guys want some more rapid fire reviews?
Oh,
let's go for it.
Yeah, give us all of them.
That's actually perfect.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to end this.
All right, so these are not from critics, but these are actually going to be from Letterboxd reviews.
All right.
So I have 3 of them, and I will end on a if I can get my arrow back, I will end on a Rotten Tomatoes quote. To The Room and every other 1.5 star film I've ever rated, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You could have been worse. You could have been Saving Christmas. Before I read this, before I read any more of this, I just want to address one final thing about this movie.
Yeah.
Did you guys like have to fast forward the dance montage at the end?
Oh no, we watched the entire fucking thing.
The entire thing and the post-credits scene.
Yes.
It was I watched the post-credit scene, but it honestly was too like cringe for me. Like I feel like I can handle cringe if it's like comedy for comedy purposes, but I came away from this one, I was just like, no, I can't do it, man. Like I walked out of the room and like I was gone for like 5 minutes, came back, it was still going. I was like, all right, this is why God gave us the fast forward button.
I'm gonna say this. The song is not the worst version of Angels We Have Heard on High that I've heard, and I absolutely despise Christmas music, so I will give it that. It's kind of a banger, if very badly mixed.
I mean, it's catchy.
Yeah.
That's worth something.
Yeah, but do continue, Captain Nostalgia.
All right, so let's go on. I also want to put this out there that this next Letterboxd review spoke to my soul. This is free on Amazon Prime, and I still feel like I got ripped off.
I watched it on Tubi, and it's like the ads came on, and I'm like, God damn it, this is paying Kirk Cameron right now. Damn it, and we're not even paying to watch this.
Yeah.
I guess I misspoke because I only had those 2, but I will end. I will end on that case. I will end on 2 Rotten Tomatoes quotes. This next one comes from Paul M. Bradshaw of Digital Spy, and he says, by the time the filmmakers and their entire families have brought this movie to a close, you just feel sorry for them.
Very sorry. Very much so.
Yeah.
And the last one I will read you is comes from Alzando Duranto. I don't know if I said that name right, from The Wrap. And he says, had Saving Christmas run any longer, Kurt would have no doubt have found a way to find the divinity in Frosty, Rudolph, the Grinch, Peppermint Bark, the Elf on the Shelf, Frosted Cranberry hand soap, and Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo.
Yeah, where does that fit into God's plan, Kirk? Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo. That is brilliant. Because no, he absolutely would have. He would have been, if you're going to stretch that far with Santa Claus, I mean, what's next? I mean,
right.
I have no doubt he would probably be one of those people, like, that song, Baby It's Cold Outside. He would be one of the apologists for that song.
Yeah. Oh, almost certainly he is.
He absolutely would. Yeah. He would somehow string that into this. I guarantee it.
It's he'd be like, it's not rapey at all, it's about, it's a call for, good good hospitality. No.
You can't say that with a straight face. It's like, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what to add on all of those quotes, right? I mean, what's there to add? This movie is just absolutely devastatingly awful, but still watchable. I don't know. It's still watchable, and there's moments where I'm just like, what are you getting at, Kirk? It's confounding. That's the best way to say it. This movie is absolutely confounding in so many different ways that need to watch this movie at least once. If you're into bad movies, I mean, this right here really just takes the cake.
If you're into bad movies.
If you're into bad movies, and especially, but also if you're a Christian, yeah, watch this at least once because it will, because it will piss you off. No, it will piss you off.
Look, from a scriptural standpoint, there is actually a thing that not a lot of people talk about, but there is a righteous anger and an unrighteous anger. And I strongly feel like my anger was righteous coming out of this movie.
Very much so, yeah. It's righteous indignation. That's what you feel watching this movie.
Yeah, that is actually the perfect way to sum up the experience.
Yes.
Righteous indignation.
Yeah. Basically, if you haven't watched the Cinema Snob episode on this, that's like... one. I mean, if you want the best, like, righteous indignation from an atheist perspective, that's the best video to watch because he tears that movie a new asshole, much like he did Old Fashioned, which, that movie. But, yeah, this movie is not nearly as frustrating as that movie.
It's not as offensive.
Not as offensive.
But it's still infuriating.
Yeah. And like I said, the arguments here are such nothing burgers that compared to a lot of the more insane conspiratorial War on Christmas people, it's I don't want to call it completely benign, but I mean, it's not really substantial.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a whole lot of meat to the bone here, as much as it pains me to say that. As a vegan, but it's just a bit. It's not the worst, most offensive thing out there. It's just watch it and then be prepared to just say, yeah, Kirk, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're all wrong. Much like he did in that fucking car.
I don't hate the fact that like I watched this movie. Like I feel like it definitely like started a rabbit trail of like questions that like I'd had over the years and like had finally like gotten answers to and like looked up things, did like research that like I had been like putting off for years. But yeah, I definitely think that this movie is like one of those films like from a Christian standpoint, it definitely makes you like, I feel like the appropriate response to this movie is like, do your homework and like make the decision for yourself whether or not you should continue celebrating Christmas. You know, do you side with Darren or do you side with Kurt? I feel like that's kind of the ultimate thing that this movie boils down to. Again, I really feel like a lot of this movie is like really stretching, and it has all the charm of the toilet, the turd I flushed the toilet this morning. So,
oh no, you didn't flush Mr. Hanky, did you? Damn it! Damn it! Christmas is over. Christmas is canceled.
He's still got another couple of weeks, so you know we'll see him yet.
Hell yeah, Ash, what do you think?
Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas is a disaster. But it's an enjoyable disaster at the end of it for me. I'm angry at it, but I'm also just confounded by it.
Yeah. it just is, you know.
In some ways, the Room of Christmas movies just not as enjoyable as The Room, obviously.
No, the Room is infinitely watchable. This is just kind of sort of watchable.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think that's about all that can really be said about this movie. So, Captain, yes, go ahead.
One more thing I want to say about this movie. So,
okay, yeah,
I was like trying to think. I found it. All right, cool. I found the lost Letterboxd review I was going to read, and it says that dance scene at the end cured my depression.
Nice.
Perfect.
Amazing. But yeah, Captain Nostalgia you've been on this, we've done this a few years now. For those who maybe knew, who may not know what you do on Victims and Villains, go ahead and plug your organization and everything.
Yeah, so while we're on the topic of depression, Victims and Villains is a organization that and nonprofit that and podcast network that specifically creates content to talk to people, to educate and engage individuals on mental health through pop culture. And all of our content that we create, whether it is YouTube shorts or movie reviews, podcasts about general pop culture, open conversations about mental health, our horror podcasts, our anime podcasts, they're all targeted with the demographic to let you know that you are loved, that you have value, and that you have worth, and no matter how bad it gets, you guys can find a plethora of resources on our website at victimsandvillains.net/hope. And while you're there, check out our podcasts, all of our links to our social media. And if you're a filmmaker, consider submitting your film to our film festival, Horrific Hope.
Yeah, you've been doing that at least a couple of years now, right?
This is our second year coming up, and I can't announce it on the podcast on what we're doing this year coming up. I can tell you guys after if you guys would like to know, but we have a pretty sweet announcement that we got locked in earlier this year that I've been itching to announce.
Awesome.
But yeah, we have a pretty cool lineup, and it's just a good time. Yeah, we had several we had a few world premieres last year at our inaugural film festival. We had podcasts that were linked to it. We had mental health resources both regionally and domestically and locally for those in attendance. We ran a raffle and we premiered films. We had films literally screened from all over the world, tackling everything from cannibalism, a high quality dinner to supernatural slashers and everything in between. And it was a really, really awesome time. And yeah, it's going to be April 14th and 15th this upcoming year in Winchester, Virginia at the Alamo Draft House.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Is this your first time hosting it at a physical space, like since COVID, or?
No. So we did a test run for it during one of our live streams a couple years ago, and it had a really positive response. And so we opened it up to do it at a physical earlier this year, and the Alamo Draft House worked with us, gave us some really cool setup last year, had awesome staff. I just honestly feel like I can't say enough good things about the Alamo. And we had one of the filmmakers come on to one of our podcasts and talk about it. And I love the quote that he has. And if you guys have never been to an Alamo Draft House, it is the church for cinephiles.
Yeah,
it's like the best way that I can describe it.
Awesome, man. That is so awesome. Hell yeah. Yeah, definitely check out Victims and Villains. Like, we've done live streams with them before. Look for more of that in the coming years or whatever. Like, we're definitely always open to help with the cause of mental health awareness and suicide prevention and whatnot. So, yeah, we're happy to be a part of it, and we're happy to see that everything is kind of expanding for you guys. So, yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Yeah. And as for Collateral Gaming, Ash, what is coming up down the pipeline for that?
Well, we're actually going to be featuring Dan Rockwood from Victims and Villains on our Link Between Worlds episode. So we should be recording part 1 this within the next couple days, and then part 2 later that month. This month, I should say. Our holiday special is going to be part 2 of God of War Ragnarok, where we're going to get into full spoiler details and everything. And that game is fucking amazing. So an awesome Christmas present, I would say. We'll probably do something for the bonus round that's holiday themed. I think we were talking about doing like an Angry Video Game Nerd episode or something.
Yeah, like the best Angry Video Game Nerd Christmas episodes.
Yeah, and you were going to be on that one.
Yeah, and I think we're going to do a director's cut as well, a Christmas special where we talk about Adult Swim holiday episodes. So
yeah, and this month by now we should have had out either The Love Guru or I Am Here Now, whichever one we're doing first.
I think we're going to do I Am Here Now first.
Yeah. And then I think after this, the last week of December, our next episode should be The Love Guru. So December's kind of a bad movie month for Collateral Cinema. December's now a Zelda month for Collateral Gaming. We're going to make that a thing as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, Zelda feels like a very holiday type of gaming franchise in a way, you know?
Yeah. What are we doing in the month of January, Beau?
Oh, let me think. I believe we're doing Silent Hill.
Yeah, I believe so. Silent Hill and something else.
I want to say Clueless, maybe?
Yeah. It was Clueless and Silent Hill. So that's what we're coming up with in the new year on Collateral Cinema. Stay tuned. Make sure that you check out our other December movies if you enjoy bad movies.
Yes.
And also check us out on Patreon. We may even have a holiday themed full-length movie commentary exclusive for our patrons.
I believe we may as well go ahead and announce it. It'll be the 2006 edition of Black Christmas.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned trashy exploitation cinema from the 2000s. You gotta love it, you know? It's a very silly movie. You don't like that movie?
No.
I find it to
I
be...
would prefer... That movie... Once they were like incest, I was like, I'm out.
Oh.
Yeah,
I guess that's fair. I haven't seen it yet, so
yeah. I just take it as just a dumb exploitation movie, you know. So of course it's going to have something like incest in it. It's
exploitation. Okay,
yeah, that's kind of par for the course with that type of cinema in many ways,
with that context in mind. But something to look forward to, I think, for us. Robert was interested in that.
Yeah, he wanted to do that. I mean, it's I just see it as a very dumb, silly movie, and it has Lacey Chabert in it, so you know. But yeah, look for that coming very soon. And yes, look for new content from Collateral Gaming as well. And also look for some live streams coming after the first of the year. Like, we're going to have our live stream capabilities back, and also Ash is going to be able to do Let's Plays again. So
yeah, it would be great. Yeah. So at least for the patron content on Collateral Gaming, and then let's look forward to like a live stream event. We would actually love to do something. I think like you said, for the first of the year.
Yeah, like maybe what I would like to do is maybe a end of the year retrospective where we just play a game and then just take Q&A from people about just the world of cinema and the state of cinema and the state of gaming in like 2022 or something like that.
Yeah, so it'll be a Collateral Media event.
Yeah, it'll be Collateral Media, very much so. So yeah, look for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into the streaming game because we've done a lot of fun streaming events with you, Josh, and that's been a lot of fun.
Lots of fun, definitely.
Oh, we will have one announced by the end of the year. Our next one.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
You can count us in on that. I mean, you know it. So we love taking up the late night spot.
The late night.
That's our domain.
Man, it's like maybe we can start doing the low budget late night that way.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
Or maybe that needs to be something to stream.
Something to stream.
Low budget late night?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe.
That could be like a live stream. That'd be interesting.
Just a thought. But anyway, folks, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Festivus, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Have a happy time. I know that we are, it's a time where we focus on family, bro.
Family. It's about family, bro. When you're here, you're family.
Exactly.
I like Olive Garden.
Exactly. And that's why you should join our Collateral Media Podcasts Facebook group, because when you're here, you're family.
Absolutely. You're part of the family.
Take part in the shit posting and cinema and gaming news and pop culture related news.
Yeah, so whether it's
memes.
whether it's like wrestling, movies, anime, cartoons, comics,
Anything, yeah.
Just pretty much anything pop cultural related. Yeah, come to Collateral Media Podcasts and shitpost with us.
Hell yeah. And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for as long as Twitter remains a thing.
Oh yeah.
It's funny, at work I'm actually we're developing a mock we're developing a full stack application as a team. So I'm actually in charge of the back end, and there's some other guys that are going to do the front end with REST. But anyway, we're actually building a mock like a Twitter, like a social media. We're the project concept was do something like a social media banking application, etc. So we chose social media, and we're making like a mock Twitter.
Oh wow!
Just to kind of make fun of it, actually.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that's what's going on in the world of my software engineering career.
Nice.
But yes, everybody, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, Festivus, as well as whatever you celebrate, like what Ash said. And once again, thank you to Captain Nostalgia from Victims and Villains for joining us.
But of course.
Hell yeah. So with all of that said, I'm Beau Maddox.
And I am your god, Kirk Cameron. No, I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Captain Nostalgia.
And this was Collateral Cinema with Victims and Villains. And ladies and gentlemen, don't be a fucking idiot like Kirk Cameron. Don't be a fucking idiot. Merry fucking Christmas.
Lord, the newborn king. Come the angels. Put your wings in the air. Flap them like you just don't care. Here come the angels.
Collateral Cinema is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and movie clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.